Welcome to my video lesson on Science 10 entitled Sources of Evidence for Evolution. Good morning, my dear grade 10 learners. I welcome all of you to our Biology 10 session. I am your science teacher, Ma'am Marimla from Kaanamongan National High School. Before we start with our lesson, make sure that you are in a comfortable place to make this learning session more effective. To project your insights about the lesson, here is a game for you. Whoever be the first to give the correct word will be given points. 4 picks, 1 word. Time starts now. Number 1. Fury. Good. Number 2. Extinct. All right. Number 3. Kind. Correct. Number 4. Ancestor. Excellent. And number 5. Develop. Nice performance. Truly, you are enthusiastic learners. We are now ready to start with Module 5, Lesson 1, entitled Sources of Evidence for Evolution. Our learning competency: explain how fossil records, comparative anatomy, and genetic information provide evidence for evolution. These are the learning objectives. Describe evolution and its sources of evidence. Explain the importance of knowing the evolution and its sources of evidence in daily life. And perform activities relevant to evolution and its sources of evidence. Evolution is a theoretical process by which all species develop from earlier forms of life. Evolution is a natural or artificially induced process by which new and different organisms develop as a result of changes in genetic material. This means that the existence of living organisms from a very simple form of life into a complex form can be explained scientifically by different scientists or biologists. Evolution is a natural or artificially induced process. It is natural because the changes take naturally with the environment, and artificially induced process in the sense that man can manage to develop different organisms as a result of change in genetic material. Organisms inhabiting the earth have changed over time. Their structures, traits, and abilities allowed them to adapt and survive in their environment. Take a look at the chart. The common ancestor is the gray wolf and have produced wolves of different structures, traits, and abilities, like the wolves produced in Europe, North America, China, and India. All the wolves produced are different but came from the same ancestor. As to evolution, data from the fossil records, anatomy and morphology, embryonic development, and biochemistry could be analyzed to demonstrate if evolution of life on Earth has taken place. Evolution is a process of change over time. I hope that your minds are already partially filled up with insights leading to our topic about the sources of evidences for evolution. We have four different sources of evidences for evolution. 1. Evidences from fossil records. 2. Evolutionary patterns from comparative anatomy. 3. Patterns in embryonic development. And 4. Evidence from amino acid sequence. Evidences from fossil records. Fossils are examples of materials that paleontologists use in study. These are the traces of organisms that lived in the past and were preserved by natural processes or events in rocks, teeth, or ice. Some fossils are remains of organisms that include bones, shells, teeth, and also feces. Through time, fossils bearing rocks were exposed by movement of the Earth's surface, by weathering, or dug out by paleontologists, giving us the value of the past life. So these are some examples of remains of plants and animals. Number 2, evidence for evolution is the evolutionary patterns from comparative anatomy. Structures can be homologous or analogous. Homologous structures may perform different functions in the species living in the different environment, or it may have the same origin, structure, or certain body parts but different functions. Structures of unrelated species may evolve to look alike because this structure is adapted to similar function. These are called analogous structures. Analogous structures have similar functions but different structure of certain body parts. Divergent evolution proposed that homologous structures that develop from common ancestors may have different functions, such as bat wings and rodent forelimbs, results into homologous structure. Okay, on the other hand, convergent evolution suggests that analogous structures of organisms of different ancestors have similar function, such as butterfly wings and bird wings, results into analogous structures. Here is a comparison between homologous and analogous structures. Example, forelimbs of bat and whale. They have the same ancestor and perform different functions. While in the analogous structure, example, wings of birds, bat, and butterfly. They have different ancestors, but have similar functions. The next evidence for evolution, the patterns in embryonic development. As the organisms grow and develop, the embryos gradually become more and more dissimilar. These differences in form are caused by genes that were turned on the process of development through time. An embryo is an early stage of development in organisms. Embryonic development include different stages. Differences in the form are controlled by genetic blueprint of the organisms, and mutations in some of these genes may lead to congenital defects, physical abnormalities, cancer, and predisposition to infection. The last evidence for evolution is the evidence from amino acid sequence. Another area of study in the evidence of evolutionary concept is provided by protein and DNA sequences. Organisms struggle for existence in order to survive. They compete for food and space. The amino acid sequence refers to the order of protein and DNA of an species or organism. DNA and amino acid sequences may be explored to investigate evolutionary concepts. These tools may provide, identify, and are used in the classification of organisms to their respective genus and species. Organisms with favorable and advantageous characteristics survive and reproduce. Fitness refers to the ability of an organism to survive and produce offspring. This means that organisms continue to survive and reproduce when the environment is still sustainable for them. On the other hand, some organisms gradually become extinct because they possess characteristics which cannot enable them to cope and adapt to the kind of environment that they have. It is the survival of the fittest. Different individuals in a population possess different characteristics and abilities. This is called variation. And variation increases the chance of survival. This simply means that in a group of population, example, in a family, which include the father, the mother, and the children. They belong to the same population, but they possess different or variation of characteristics and abilities. Thus, the variation increases. Organisms with the most desirable traits would likely survive environmental changes and gradually become better suited to survive in a given environment. This is called adaptation. A very relevant example is in the case of the beluga or the aitas, who live nearby Mount Pinatubo. The time when Mount Pinatubo erupted, these people were evacuated to Dueg, San Clemente, Tarlac. They preferred and adapted to the environment because of the kind of experiences that they have. And considering that Dueg is a mountainous place. For you to understand better our lesson, you will perform 2 activities. Activity 1, entitled Analogous Homologous. Here is the direction. Write in the space provided H if the structures below are homologous and A if the structures are analogous. And answer the given questions. In number 2, activity entitled So, Who is My Relative? Here is the direction. Study and compare the stages of embryonic development of the different vertebrates. You are given 15 minutes to perform the two activities. Time starts now. Are you done? Very good. Let us now analyze your data and answers in the two activities. So let us start with activity number 1. Again, let us read the direction. Write in the space provided H if the structures below are homologous and A if the structures are analogous. Number 1, human arm and whale flipper. Correct. It's homologous structure. They are homologous structures because they have the same structure and origin or the ancestor, but they perform different functions. Number 2, whale flipper and alligator forelimb. Yes, it's homologous structure because they have the same origin and structure of certain body parts, but they perform different functions. Number 3, batwing and butterfly wing. All right, it's analogous structure. They are analogous structure because they have different origin and structure of certain body parts, but they perform the same functions. Number 4, birdwing and butterfly wing. Excellent answer. It's analogous structure. They are analogous structures because they have different ancestors, but they perform the same functions. From your data in Table 1, can you say that human, whale, and bat might belong to a common ancestral group? Explain why. Yes, the human, whale, and bat belong to a common ancestral group because they have the same structure and origin and perform different functions. And this suggests that they share a common ancestor. Next question, give other examples of homologous structures. Very good. Some of the homologous structures are forelimbs of dog and bird, forelimbs of lizard and whale, and many others. Okay. In activity 2, entitled, So, who is my relative? Let us analyze the direction. And the different stages of development of the organisms. I know that you have analyzed very well, and now you are ready to answer the questions. Question number 1. In what stages of development of the organisms above show similarities? Very good. The first and second stages of development of the organisms show better similarities. Number 2 question. Identify the structure. How and where are they similar? Okay. They are similar as to the shape of the head, the lower parts of the body, and the forelimbs. Question number 3. In stage 3, identify the structures that made the organisms different from each other. Correct. The organisms are different in size, shape of the head, forelimbs, and the structure of the eyes. Similarity in structures may suggest that these organisms share a common ancestor. Now that we have discussed and analyzed your answers, surely you have learned something about our lesson. What do you think is the importance or relevance of our lesson in our everyday life experiences? My dear students, connecting our lesson to what life we have now, we truly believe that evolution is a continuous process of change over time. And these changes encourage scientists to have continuous research in different fields of study. In agriculture, the agriculturists don't stop searching for the best crop appropriate for a given time of the year. In food technology, the food experts continuously upgrading their food preparation and food products through the advancement of technology to give consumers the maximum satisfaction. In business offices, the use of gadgets and other machines to achieve greater work efficiency. And also in the field of medicine, viruses also evolved. COVID-19 virus, which evolved from SARS to SARS-CoV-2. That ends my lesson for today. and I hope that you have learned something. Change is at the very core of evolution, and without it, all creatures would look alike and behave the same way. Thank you for listening. Again, this is your science teacher, Ma'am Cleofe Marimla, reminding you to practice the habit of excellence. See you next time. Goodbye.